let me introduce you Ed. Ed is a great creative designer and above all a professional. We met many years ago, not really many years ago, but probably 3 or 4 years ago at Wonderwood here in the north part of Italy. And he told me about all things he has done in the parks we love most, which I didn't even know about it. And he worked at Gardaland and Mirabilandia, to name just a few of our local parks, but also in many, many, many other parks in Europe and around the world. Now, I'll hand over to him, and I recommended you to start thinking about your project and let yourself, guys, be inspired by Ed ideas and presentation. Ed, thank you very much. We are ready.
Grazie, Sergio. Thank you so much for the introduction. Hey, everybody. Lovely to see you all. Thank you for joining this evening. I'm going to attempt to share my screen, so hopefully this works. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, sure.
See? Okay, great, cool. Okay, so yeah, thank you. So today, obviously, I'll try and talk slowly, and if at any point anyone doesn't understand, just raise your hand and tell me to slow down. But today I'm going to be talking about blue sky, and the kind of the endless possibilities of this first phase that we have in our industry. So you can see that page, right? About me. See? With the photo?
No,
Okay.
we can see only your email.
Ah, that's not great, is it? Let me try again. Sorry about that. And now?
Yes. Now,
There we
yes.
go. Oh, now you all know what I'm working on. Okay. I try again. So, yeah, so my name's Ed Musgrove. I'm Executive Creative Director at myco Europe. We are a entertainment design company, and I will explain a little bit more about that in a second. But firstly, just about me personally. Prior to becoming creative director at myco, I was a freelance creative director and designer for more than 10 years in the world of like theme parks, attractions, everything themed entertainment, basically. So my kind of range of skills sit between design, direction, concept design, art direction, even kind of like storytelling, and a bit of kind of technical design as well. Um, and so as Sergio mentioned, I've been very fortunate to work on quite a few fun attractions across Europe and beyond. A couple of my kind of favorite projects recently, hopefully some of you have been to the Nickelodeon land in Mirabilandia. We worked on the schematic design phase for that, so I think you'll be learning about that in a couple of sessions' time. But basically, we had a design that came from Paramount and Nickelodeon, and we kind of developed that into something buildable. So that was really fun to see that come to life. And then 2 years ago, I was the art director on Mahuka, which is the single rail roller coaster at Wallaby Run Up. So that was really fun because again, I got to kind of take this wonderful design from Fabien Manuel, and kind of implement this in the park. So we led everything from like, the rock work, implementation, the theming, all of the install, even while everything was testing. We were kind of building all of these wonderful worlds around this big roller coaster. So that was great. And then another couple of projects, perhaps, like Peppa Pig Land in Gardaland, worked with Merlin Entertainment on that 5 or 6 years ago now. And then I've worked with Legoland, and also in the Real Madrid world in Dubai, and a few parks in the UK and Madame Tussauds. So it's been really fun because I've been very fortunate in that I didn't kind of just jump into theme parks. So even though my passion is very much in theme parks, I got to learn, aquariums and hotels and animal facilities and things like that. So it's been really fun. Um, And there was a little video in there of the ride. Oh, there we go. In case you don't know the ride. Um, and then just, yeah, a couple of photos of, like the different types of stuff you find yourself working on every day in our wonderful industry. Whether it's in the middle of winter in Sweden when it's minus 20 degrees, or in plus 35 degrees in France. Whether it's like, renovating attractions with just simple new designs, or doing full giant rock sculptures, and um, or testing material samples and things like that. It's, there's so much variation in this industry that it's just, it's really a joy to get to do something different pretty much every single day. So, um, next up, I just wanted to kind of share a little bit about the company that I currently work for, so in February this year, I joined my co-to as their creative director, and I've been working with them already for 5 years on various attractions. And as a company, we do literally everything entertainment design except for fabrication. So master planning, concept, schematic design, all of these phases that you'll kind of start to work through. And also kind of show set packages, which when we have a bigger project, we'll kind of take everything right through to these like buildable packs that we can then send out to be fabricated. So it has, technical elevations, all the plans, the materialization, everything. Um, and then we also do like story and development. So, for example, we have a team. So the larger part of our company is based in Los Angeles, in Pasadena. And we work a lot with Universal Studios, for example, where we'll kind of go and help them do their live entertainment. And we also work with Netflix and work on the big houses that they're about to open. And we do a lot of kind of that type of brand activation as well. So it's really, really mixed. Um, and again, like I said, we work in theme parks, brand experiences, shows, museums, and even urban leisure destinations. So before all of these phases, um, we have the blue sky phase. So today, I kind of want to take you through my approach to this phase, the phase generally, and then also the kind of the realities of this phase and how it works on a daily basis. So, well, what is blue sky to begin with? I'm sure you've all heard the term. Um, I think the most known version of blue sky is kind of the Disney version of blue sky, which is kind of this first phase or like a pre-phase of a project. That's just encouraging like brainstorming, endless imagination, and idea generation. And ultimately, the whole point is that you're focusing on the possibilities of creativity rather than kind of having any restrictions or technical things that might stop you from just, letting your imagination go crazy. So, um, this kind of phase is like when do you really begin the blue sky phase? And I would just say as soon as possible. I think, like I mentioned, the whole point is that you just start to create as many ideas as possible, right? So, the longer you have to do it, the better. And I think the part that's quite interesting is I don't really think there's a defined period of time for how long this phase should last. I think it varies per project, and in a dream scenario, so for example, Disney, it's like between weeks to months, sometimes even a year or two if it's on a really big project. But a lot of normal projects that I would say are, the kind of things we work on every day. It can be anything from like a couple of hours to a couple of days. And I think it's such a flexible phase. So you'll see how I kind of approach this as we go through. But I think how do we work on this kind of idea of like just thinking creatively with no limits? And everybody has a different approach, as I mentioned. But like me, I think this phase it can be impacted by time, as I've said, team mentality. So like the willingness of your team that you work with to actually let their mind wild, to actually think, right, there's no limits. let's just really think of anything. And trying to encourage the importance of that, I think, is a really big part of the blue sky phase. Um, Also, the idea of having a budget can be quite limiting for this phase. So even if there is one, you almost kind of need to put it aside. And also, I think the level of research and the amount of time that you into research is obviously what makes or breaks this phase. So um, you see a lot of like kind of buzzwords and buzz phrases for Blue Sky, and I think they all are true, completely true. So the idea of having no limits, letting your imagination be endless, no idea is a bad idea, freedom to create and to just go crazy. I think it's really nice to have a phase that allows you to do this because it's quite rare to actually have the chance to just think of absolutely anything. So I think it's really important phase in any project. Um, but I personally think it's very, very important to have a goal. So whether you're looking to design, a new story or a character or a ride or a whole land, or even anything completely different, even if you want to just change the world with some new amazing invention, I think it's good to know what your goal is or what the ultimate aim is. Um, the idea is to create as many options as possible that we can choose from, and we should explore as many of them as possible. So my kind of my personal approach towards this phase is I'm inspired by everything. Like am always just or easily distracted because I see something shiny over there and I go, oh wow, what's that? I have to go and check it out. And I think, the inspiration does really come from anywhere and everywhere. And I encourage you all to just look around you, like look up, look down, try and discover new things as much as possible because it's quite amazing that when these ideas just come to you and when you have a creative mind, a lot of them come at like 3 o'clock in the morning when you're trying to sleep, and that's suddenly when you have the best idea you ever thought of, and it's the thing that keeps you up all night. And I think it's really important to embrace those ideas. And even something that I occasionally do is like have a notebook even beside the bed, because if something pops up in my mind in the middle of the night, it's probably going to stop me from sleeping because I'll get so like invested in this cool idea. So I think it's quite nice to, always have a way of taking notes. Um, and then I think another thing that's really important for Blue Sky is to allow yourself the time to freely think before you join a group discussion. Um, I keep saying let your mind run wild, but honestly, you should. And I think you'll see in a minute like how important group discussions are as a part of Blue Sky. But I think um, for most creatives, they like to have the time to actually have a moment by themselves to just figure out and say, okay, I'm really inspired by this. Um, this is something I want to think about for a little bit before other people start to influence my thoughts as well. So I think it's really important to allow yourself to think freely. Um, Research, I think, like I said, whether you have a goal or a brief or not, I think just searching for things again, looking for inspiration. If there's a brief that you've been given, there's probably one or two things that you can start to really dive into. um, I think something that's really important as well is to search relevant projects. So if say for example you've been given a brief on okay, we know we have a new land, it's going to be based on an IP, it's going to have two rides, and it needs to be something we've never seen before. That is when you need to dive in because suddenly you've got to try and find different rides that haven't been either done before or are not so common in the location that you're designing for. um, Trying to find something unique is hard because it feels like everything's been done before. But the more you research, the more you have these different pools of ideas that allow you to just kind of start putting different things together and find that unique twist. Um, again, like photos and videos of things. Just I take photos everywhere I go. Like to the extent that I think I probably add about 5,000 photos a month to my library. But I just love having those references, you know? When you're stuck on an idea or something, you just look for a bit of extra inspiration and you go, oh, there was something really cool that I saw on this trip. And then because I'm constantly doing this, I can search for the location and I can bring back all of those things that I saw. So I think that's also something that's super, super useful. Um, and then finally, sketches, pens, notebooks. I'm a bit old school in that sense. Whatever works for you. If you like to sketch on a tablet um, or do things your own way, but like I always have a notebook in front of me. And even when I'm drawing on my tablet, I still pick up my pen and I still write physical things because there's just something that feels really nice to me that like inspires me more when I'm like writing on paper. So again, it's a personal thing. Um, so next up is this is a huge thing. I think a lot of people are really, really intimidated by a blank page in a sketchbook. I used to be as well, a lot. It really, really is intimidating to start from absolutely nothing. And I think by taking this kind of step back and looking for inspiration and looking for a bit of research, you already have a foundation for your ideas, right? So you're never really starting with nothing. Even if you open your sketchbook and you have a blank page, well, if you say, okay, well, I'm doing this new ride and I've checked out this already and I love what I saw here, or I saw this really cool thing in the city and I want to take that further. Like use those as a base and don't let the blank page freak you out because it is overwhelming. And nothing is scary, but you will see like just one small spark of an idea, and you'll be amazed, I think, at how much you suddenly, things just start to come to you. So those are kind of my personal approaches on Blue Sky. And now I just wanted to share a bit more, like as part of a bigger company. It's been really interesting for me to join a company that is based partly in the US and partly in Europe. Um, there are very different approaches across the board. But one thing that I've really fallen in love with is the idea of a creative charrette. Um, it's it's not kind of the best picture because it can happen anywhere. Like this maybe looks a bit formal, but you can probably see that there's just like sheets of paper up on the wall, plus reference imagery on the screen. Everyone's got their computers to research, and lots of coffee. And um, yeah, you sit around the table and anything goes. So the idea is everyone keeps their ears open, keeps their minds open. You listen to each other and you just fill up a wall or you fill up a board with your ideas. And the idea is to just get as many as possible. Um, there are no bad ideas at this phase. So Blue Sky, there are no bad ideas. And something that's really important in these like big roundtables discussions are is that somebody is taking those notes because I think also creatively like there are different types of people, there are different ways of doing things. But if you are somebody that just gets really inspired and has a million ideas, sometimes it kind of helps to have somebody else actually write those things down for you, rather than you doing it yourself, so that you can keep flowing or you can bounce off of each other. So if there's somebody doing that for you, I think it's a really big one. And then this next one is a little bit more of a structured approach, but again, this is something that's been really, really eye-opening to me. That's really helped with this Blue Sky process, which is that somebody is always leading the session. So someone is already always like in charge, and they come prepared, um, in a way that helps encourage people to think as much as possible. And coming with an agenda or some goals helps keep the session on track. So it could be a 2 hour session or it could be a 2 day workshop. But if there's some structure, it really helps. Um, so I wanted to share with you like a kind of a sample agenda for a creative charrette, because it's like I said, it's been quite interesting for me to see this approach because different places that I've been have done it very differently. So when I would work on projects with Merlin, for example, we'd all just gather around in the room and get everybody together, and we would share things that we saw on the way to work, and we'd just have like 15 minutes every day just to come up with ideas of inspiration. But then this charrette is a bit more structured. So this sample agenda, um, you always start with an intro to the project or a light brief, so that everybody knows why they are there. And then the next thing is, what do we want to accomplish today? So, what is the purpose of us being in this room, being in this round table? Um, and what do we need to achieve by the end of the day? Do we need one idea? Do we need 10 ideas? It, you will start to filter them, but to start with, we just need to know roughly what we need. Um, and then we look at the project needs. So, if the client has said, we're going to do a horror maze in this location, it needs to have 15 actors, 10 scare zones, operate 6 days a week, have practical effects, and do something that you've never seen before, because people always love to say that. Um, those are those needs. So even though we're going crazy with our imagination, we still have like criteria that we want to fulfill with this process. And then next to kind of what topics do we need to explore? So if, for example, it's something story based, do we need to start already looking at the type of character that we would like to have in this situation or the type of environment that we want to have in this situation? So that's really useful to look at the different topics, and you can kind of fill them in like a column on the sheet. So you can either go full brainstorm or you can kind of try and organize the way that you do it. Um, and then this one is quite nice. It's a bit more personal. What would you individually want to see or experience as a part of this experience? So I think, as I mentioned earlier, like it's very good to have this brief before that you have this type of meeting, because it allows you to also say, hey, what do I really, really want to do? Like, what would be genuinely really, really cool? And I think everybody has a completely different opinion. So if you already have some idea before you sit down, it's not going to be influenced by other people so quickly. So you can get all those ideas on paper, and then you can start to be inspired by everybody else's idea. Like it's quite cool. Um, and then the types of the ride, types of attraction, type of interactive. I think that's an easy one to do. It's just listing as many things as you can think of that would fit this criteria. What makes it unique, as I mentioned already, and then what to avoid. And this comes back a little bit to research, but I think, again, when you're being open-minded, you can also think of the stuff that you really don't want this to be. And I think that also helps, because if you want to start refining your ideas or you only have a day to do this process, it's also good to know 100% what should this not be as an experience. And then at the end of all of this, one big round table, go around the room, and you start to vote on different ideas or discuss what things we want to take further forward. So I think, as I mentioned, this was kind of a newer process to me, it to have a bit more structure to a blue sky, but the two things can go hand in hand, right? So you can have your blank sketchbook, but you can also sit down and have this slightly more structured um, way of doing things. So this again is kind of like a bit of a company ethos, but also I think you've probably seen this phrase, and there's a very well-known book about like starting with why. And it is a really good question to ask yourself almost any phase in attraction design, actually. Every time you start to question something, it's always good to just go, okay, but what's the purpose? What are we trying to do with this? And even in blue sky, I think you don't want to limit yourself, but it's quite nice to figure out why we're doing what we're doing. Um, and again, as a company kind of internal mentality, we say that like we believe that having to understand your vision behind a new project helps us then figure out the how and the what. How are we going to do something later on? But we need that why first. And then that helps us make these design choices and figure out what the interactives are going to be or what the rides are going to be. So the main thing here is like always ask questions and always stay curious. And again, it sounds a bit cliche, but like yes and as an answer to everything rather than no, at least in this phase, is really cool because it will keep taking you places. Like if it's like that kind of the game where everyone has to say one thing and then you start to build like a story and everyone adds to that story. That's kind of what happens with that like yes and approach to Blue Sky. Um, and then this one again is important. Challenge ideas, but not right away. So in this phase, people will naturally already have an opinion on an idea that somebody is saying. Um, you might already instantly be like, oh, that's really cheesy, or oh no, I've seen that 10 times, or that's not going to work. But this isn't the time for that originally. So like you should challenge stuff, but allow the room for that to happen first before you start to kind of extract and pull these ideas apart. And create a platform for open discussion. Like, let's discuss these topics and debate them. And when you do start to challenge them, say why you don't agree on it, but just let people have the chance to go wild first. Um, so again, some of my kind of top tips, things that really help with this phase, I think organization will help you so much with Blue Sky. You will see that once you start coming out with all of these ideas, it can almost be a bit overwhelming when you actually have to come back to them. So if you have an element of structure to what you've done, it's going to be so much easier when you need to come back and figure out how you're going to take this to the next level. So um, just a couple of apps that I've mentioned here, like Miro, like the kind of idea boards, we use them all the time. And the more we use them, the more we find them useful to our projects because you can start with Blue Sky and then you can cluster them and you can then throw them on the other side of the board, clone them, split them up, put them into categories, figure out what's going to go where. It really helps. Um, Everyone uses Pinterest, but it works. It's great for doing mood boards. It is really nice for inspiration. Um, I will say it's also quite limiting and it's very funny often when as a team everyone goes away to do their own like image research and people often come back with like the same 20 images because when you click on one you kind of fall into this like loop of things. So just be aware, like it's really good, but also you can make your own mood boards with your own photos and other things that you find out and about. And you can throw these into these other apps. Notion is good for note taking and Freeform. I don't know if anyone uses it, but it's quite nice. It's a bit basically like Apple's Miro, and it wasn't that great when it first started, but what's quite nice about it is it's just really, really simple. So again, it's not like it doesn't have like a learning curve that holds you back to just throwing things on a page, which again, that like blank page fear thing, I think it's quite nice for that. Um, yeah, and then image searching, blogs, photo reports on things, they always help. And again, note taking, pen and paper, like I love it. I believe in it. So then tools for Blue Sky. Mood boards and reference collections. So, like I mentioned already, it is just so useful to grab things and put them together, and you'll start to get even more inspired the more images you find. And then you can see here how I've kind of like, this is just from a little project that we've been working on recently, but like just throwing those references together on a board in one place that you can just put them side by side, but then you're not relying on them online within like Pinterest, and instead you can just lay them all out. And even if you have like a cork board on a wall or like a board that you can just pin stuff to, it's also really inspiring to just have those physical things like surrounding you because they keep you really inspired. And then really quick sketches, whether you're an amazing drawer or you haven't discovered yet that you're an amazing drawer, Um, just sketch things down. Like if something's in your head and the only way you can communicate it is with a pen, like just go for it. Narrative passes and story beats, they also really help. So this is like a really classic basic thing, but like a three-act structure. Even in a blue sky phase, it can be quite fun to think about like what a story arc might be, or like how you want to build a bit of tension, or how you're going to deliver what you want to deliver. And what's nice is if you use a basic like three-act structure, or the classic kind of like, classic storytelling rules, you could replace, like when something cool happens, the midpoint, the plot, the climax, with just like a one-word idea, and you can start to build stories in seconds. And you don't need to go crazy at this point. Like just put things in and move them around and see how they work, and you'll be quite amazed how those things come together. Because then you can take that and you can continue your blue sky by, I've kind of overlapped it, but behind we were just doing like some character descriptions for animals, in an animal attraction, and how we can tell stories about them. And so, you go from like a few word clouds to suddenly being able to just create little paragraphs about these characters. And it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It's just put it down. Um, and then the obvious one, um, that is obviously everyone's talking about it. It's nothing new now, but AI, how you use that within Blue Sky. Um, I would just say use it, but use it well, and consider what you're asking it to do. Because for me, it shouldn't replace your freedom to express your own imagination, but it should like accompany it. So if you allow it to, it will basically think for you and start to like almost limit your range of creativity in a way. Because even if you're really great with a prompt, like it's still going to give you a set thing. And often, if you just are sitting there brainstorming ideas, you're going to get further quicker. But then when you have those ideas, that's when I think this is an incredible tool to start putting things together to then enhance your thoughts. So that's kind of uh my opinion on how you can integrate it into the process in a nice way. And I think it's absolutely incredible, and like everyone should be using it in the right ways. But don't underestimate your own level of creativity before you allow something to be creative for you, basically. Um, so then after this kind of phase of just going completely crazy with your wonderful ideas, um, it's time to kind of refine things. So I mentioned about being organized within apps, but like clusters of things really are going to help you. So once you start to identify, like common stories or common themes, um, it's going to really, really make your life easier to start filtering those out and refining them. Um, so, for example, this project I was telling you about, you can see here, then we started to kind of lay these out into different structures and say, okay, let's come up with three stories, um, three different image boards based on our references. And then let's make a list of interactives that we could apply these to based on the other things that we've discussed. Um, let's see what applies to the whole project. Let's see what would be really cool with different things. And then you can just shift them around and you can discover like what works and play. Um, and yeah, so you will find that by having a group working on things, there will be things that become a bit repetitive, maybe. So it's good to look at them and say, okay, there's clearly a theme here. So let's stick with that theme because it's really working. Or let's not take that theme because it's totally, totally wrong. Same goes for visual styles. Like as I mentioned on like Pinterest, you start to see the same thing. You will probably, it's quite normal to kind of get in a bit of like a research loop that you sort of start to actually narrow your own research down. So I think when you start to figure out that that's happening, it's a good thing because you can then say, okay, well, we're going down this route for a reason, right? Because we're all inspired by it. So let's look at how we can now take this to another phase. Same goes for story. Um, And then, yeah, so kind of then almost take like a second blue sky phase where you start to kind of refine those ideas. So like go back at what you've done before and look at how you can kind of mix those ideas up. And another thing that's I find it's quite amazing how even with like the most amazingly creative team, when there's a bit of pressure, you start to go in circles and you start to feel like why can we not imagine anything more. Like we're supposed to be in this amazing phase where we can do anything. And I think the best thing you can do is actually take a break and kind of come back to what you're working on, because again, you might suddenly be inspired by something, or you might have a totally different conversation, but you go, that's actually the solution. Like that's really going to be the thing that works. And then you come back and suddenly you have another 10 ideas. Um, and then I have kind of like coined my own catchphrase, which is like be a helicopter. It's a bit silly, but I love to have this zoom out moment on everything that I do, because I think it's very, very, very easy just to want to put a detail on everything you do straight away. I have an idea, I need to make it happen. It's going to be green and it's going to be 10 meters tall and it's going to be made of whatever. Like every time you start to go down that route at this phase, zoom out and start to say like the whole reason we're doing this is to explore everything. This is when you can take a risk. This is when you have the time to to explore all of these different things. So very much in this phase, it's good to remind yourself to just always stay a little bit more high level to begin with. Um, but from my own experience, the helicopter approach, I apply it to everything, every phase of every project. Every time we start to kind of get a bit like obsessed with slightly the wrong part of detail, because it's nature, you're trying to come up with a solution to something in a limited time. But sometimes you need to zoom out and again ask why. Like, why are we doing this? Who is this for? What's the end game with what we're designing? And it will help you. It will always help you to kind of strip it back a little bit. And on that note, do not underestimate the elevator pitch. I remind myself all the time, can I sell my idea in 30 seconds or 10 seconds or even 5 seconds? Um, how can you communicate your idea as efficiently as possible to get people with you in your story so they get, they're there in the moment with you, they understand it. um I think again, go big with your ideas, but then start to think about how, okay, this is really exciting, this is so cool, and I have 100 references that I've found that really inspire me, but what is my idea and how can I explain it to somebody in 30 seconds? um And this is a big one. If it's too hard for you to explain, it's probably too complicated. That also crops up in different phases of this project, of any project, sorry. Um, because then you need to think about how that translates into a guest experience as well. If someone can't understand the base of your story in like 10 seconds or maybe 30 seconds, then maybe they're never going to understand it. And I think there are some amazing examples of like really incredible themed lands where the story is not that easy to understand because there's so much detail, or like too many things at once that people don't quite understand. And okay, maybe it looks amazing. Maybe the experience is like really, truly mind-blowing. But then you have to say, okay, but what's the story? Like, what is this? And you should kind of, as you like explore different attractions and as you go and seek your inspiration, like just try and ask yourself, like, what's actually the story here? What's going on? Even in like a nice restaurant, often you'll go in and there'll be a bit of a story, and it's quite interesting to see how that's communicated versus like a whole themed land, because everything we do has story at its heart. Um, so then reality. Um, you will find that projects are shorter and shorter. Everyone wants everything yesterday. And also, a little bit coming back to AI, a big trend is that like clients develop their own artwork and they try and do a blue sky slash concept phase before they've even really begun. And it can kind of limit the options a little bit. So I think something that's really important is you need to make the blue sky phase work for you. If you find you need time to just get creative on your own, do it and carve out time. Like, even if you're on a really, really short project, just make some time to just go and be creative without the distractions of everything else. It's not the easiest, but it is possible. Um, and don't pressure yourself into trying to come up with the final idea in the first 5 minutes. Often, your first idea can be your best idea, but don't let it be your only idea. Um, Let it kind of inspire other ideas and come back to it. But don't stress yourself out thinking, okay, oh my God, I've got 5 minutes before I have to go and pitch this whole thing. This has to be the ultimate thing that's going to get built. Because the reality is, as phases go on, even when they're short, there will be time to develop your idea. So don't rush, even though it feels like everyone's asking you to rush. Um, Make space or hold space. Um, Creatives need time to create, as I just mentioned. So allow this process to happen. Try and schedule in some blocks of time. And even if it's just like little short chunks, don't miss out on the possibility of what you can create if you allow yourself to explore. And the second or third, like blue sky sessions or refinement sessions, that can be when you start to really refine what you do, but you don't need to do it all in one go. So these kind of phrases that I had at the beginning, these like, they seem a bit cliche, but if you actually add in a couple of other things to them, so like teamwork, but also freedom, endless imagination, but also be organized, and no limits, and no idea is a bad idea. I think that, they are truly things to stand by. So I think these little cliched phrases, they exist because this is exactly what we should be applying to this process. But hopefully, some of these kind of tips and approaches help you refine what you're doing, or have a little bit of a strategy to the way in which you approach your blue sky phases. So, on that note, there's a couple of other things I want to talk about, but on blue sky generally, that my message is to just kind of dream big. Um, because why not? Like, this is the phase that you can do that. So allow your imagination to run wild, get inspired, go crazy, put every idea down on paper that you can, and you'll see as processes go on, you don't always have this opportunity again. So make the most of it, because it's so cool to be in an industry that actively encourages such kind of like creative thinking and the ability to just truly let your imagination run away with you. So yeah, that's kind of my slightly cheesy but lasting message. Um, so a couple of things that I also just wanted to mention about the in terms of staying connected with people, and thinking about like teams that you might find as you're either starting out, or if you're like a freelancer. Um, it's actually not always the easiest to find a team of people to do these things with. And something that was huge for me starting out was the Themed Entertainment Association, or the TEA. Um, they organize all of these amazing events and like mixers, and even this conference called SATE, which stands for Storytelling, Architecture, Technology, and Entertainment, I think. And basically it's like a 2-day conference, and it's not the cheapest, but it is just an amazing place to meet very similar people. And the nice thing about this organization is it represents a lot of individuals and companies. So you will often find that there are people that are kind of like similar to what you're doing, that you can share your ideas with, and you'll be amazed at how open people are to wanting to just have these kind of discussions. It's always so nice, and these kind of communities also then kind of become friends. Like I have industry friends that I met at these events like 10 years ago, and now we're all doing very similar things in different realms, and it's really nice because we still share our ideas. Like you still just text each other and go, "Oh, did you see this? This would be a really cool idea for an attraction." And it's so nice that you have those moments of like inspiration that you just need to communicate, right? So I just wanted to share this with you all. And I'm not doing a sales pitch, but for students, it's very reasonably priced. Um, I think it is 55 US dollars for a year. Um, you do pay for different events that you go to, but there are some that are like either free or very, very low cost. And if you're a student or a recent graduate or a next gen, you often get like a really, really good ticket price for things as well. And something they do is like these TA Tuesdays where a few cities in Europe will organize a mixer every few months and everyone just goes to a bar and you just meet like-minded people. And again, it's amazing who you'll meet at these things. Um, and then just to show like a couple of events that are coming up. Um, the top one, there's a TA talk in BUAS, which is the University of Applied Sciences in Breda. I'm sure many of you have heard about it, but there's like a really fantastic course at that university. And one of the lecturers, Wim, is hosting a TA talk session. And it's kind of a mix of like industry experts and next gens. And again, it's very reasonably priced. And it, of course, a lot of these things involve travel. But some of these days at like the universities are really fantastic. And then there's like international mixes and festive events as well. And even these festive events are really fun because you just go and have a drink in a city in Europe. You often get like a behind the scenes event. And that's also a joy of these, when you're in the industry, you get to see the other side of the industry too on these little tours, and they're wonderful. Um, and then finally, IAPA, the education is great. I've been very honored to be a part of the education committee for the last 4 years. I've just finishing up now. I'm also on the board with the TA too, and both have just been very beneficial in two very different ways. But I think what's also fantastic about IAPA is that the education sessions are so varied that you can learn so much about the industry, whether it's like operations and management or safety or sustainability and creativity all over the course of a couple of days. And then also there are like facility visits that IAPA organize, but even webinars, like there are actually some really, really amazing webinars and a whole library of stuff that you can just dive into. And again, coming back to Blue Sky, like the ability to just dive into these like amazing libraries of research are fantastic. So you should use everything that you have. So on that note, thank you very much. Um, and that's that.
Thank you, Ed. Grazie.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much for your presentation. First of all, congratulations. I think you give us a lot of ideas, suggestion, and tips. And the interesting things about your presentation, how this phase of work we can use it in so many different creative jobs, design, architecture, theme park design, and etc. Personality, I found something I use every time in my jobs routine, but most of all, I see a different thing I don't use in my work routine, and for this, thank you very much. And
Pleasure.
about this, guys, does anyone have a question for Ed?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
We need question. The first one. Yes. One moment. Pa, 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 pa.
Thank you for your nice messages.
Come
I think as
here.
well, something that's, I'll see.
We have a problem with
Say
Eric
question.
connection.
Ah, no worries.
We are in the same room, but anyway, thank you very much for your presentation. I think I have lost actually maybe the first 10 minutes because of the connection, but anyway, I found it very interesting, and I have a question for you. So you talked about the blank page thing. So I think when you want to create an idea, but actually you don't have the right idea. And I have a question for you. Despite the references, how did you references? Do you have maybe any suggestions for us to overcome this blank page phase?
Yeah. So for me, I I think there's something quite nice in, again, like, little things that catch your eye and inspire you to just start sketching. So even if you're not like the world's best illustrator, or you haven't had the chance to just go crazy with your sketching, I think it just helps to like even just doodle, like just scribble on the page. And like you probably find a lot of you, even if you're on like a meeting or a call or talking to somebody, that you just pick up a pen and you'll like just start like, making little images on and things. And I think that's also something, is like, just don't be afraid to make a mess of a piece of paper. Like, not every sheet of paper needs to go in a frame on your wall. It should be somewhere that you can just explore. So yeah, don't be afraid to just like make a mess and just pick up a pen or play on your tablet. Um, and then I think you'll just kind of find naturally you're less scared to begin something. I think just put anything down, even if it's like a word or a reference of something that's just, yeah, caught your attention. I think it will help. For me, anyway.
Thank you. So just write, basically. Oh, the
Now
microphone
the microphone won.
Thank you. So just try to sketch it out. Okay, thank you very much, Ed.
See, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
pleasure.
Okay. Paolo, you can talk if you want.
Okay. Hi, Ed.
Hey, ciao Paolo.
Okay, so you gave us a very valid point when you told us about freedom and teamwork and how we should allow others to express themselves before challenging their ideas. And I think we can all agree that the more people we work with, the harder it gets, especially in a creative environment, because we all entangle in different ways of imagining. So it's a very subjective thing. And I was
Totally.
just wondering, have you ever had any experience with colleagues being too negative towards your creating process or just your ideas? And if you had this type of experience, how did you deal with it? Did you have to compromise? Did you have to be a little bit more patient or stubborn?
Mm, all of the above, I think. So I am a very passionate person, as I'm sure many of you are. If I fall in love with something, I will very vocally explain why I love it so much. I think Massimiliano always jokes that I say everything is my favorite, and that you can only have one favorite, but everything is my favorite because I just love everything and I'm very enthusiastic. So I think when you meet that kind of maybe a bit more negative or like challenging approach, I think you learn over time how to look for the like constructively at the negativity, or that like the difference in opinion, because sometimes you can get so into what you're thinking about that you also forget to like allow other people's opinions to help you shape your own. So I think when I say about like refining an idea, often you may not want to hear what someone has to say because you really think you've like nailed it and you're like, yeah, this is the one, this is the one. And then someone goes, actually, I don't know, I don't think that's going to work. But what about this? And then first time around, you might be like, no, no, no. But then actually, like sometimes maybe you like go away and you come back in and you think, oh, actually, that's maybe not a terrible idea. And I think it can be hard sometimes when it feels like something's negative, or it feels like something's against your freedom of expression or ability to be really creative. But I think you just have to also like listen. I think if you if you want people to listen to you, you kind of have to listen to other people as well. And I know like that's been said a million times, but it is true. And again, when it can be hard when there's more and more and more people in a team or working on a project, and like you might find sometimes you're with a client and suddenly there's like 30 people around a table and everyone has an opinion and they're all very important people and you need to listen to their opinions. But if you can justify passionately or with research or something why it's valid and why you believe in it, often the same thing will happen the other way around, right? So like they may tell you that you have to have this and it has to be amazing and your idea is not great. And then you go, well, actually, I really think this could, change totally the guest experience, and this is why. And then it might take a while, but like, yeah, patience and a bit of compromise. You often find that stuff does genuinely, it's not a bad thing to get a bit of pushback. It's just not always the easiest to hear. Um, and I do think one final thing on that as well, like when you first start working more in the industry, you feel like everything's like your baby a little bit. And it's very normal that stuff doesn't get built exactly how that first design was made because it's going to be like value engineered or it's just not possible or something changes entirely. And I think it's important to learn over time that like it's great to care about what you believe in, but also sometimes again, like you have to zoom out. See, I said I say it all the time, but you have to zoom out a little bit and be like, the idea is still there, and actually it's better now because someone else gave me their opinion, you know? So that was a very long answer, but hopefully kind of
Well, I
answered the
really like
question.
it. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, pleasure. Thank you for asking.
I think we have another question. Mirko, turn on your microphone. Mirko, where is Mirko? Okay, here. Mirko, you can try.
Yeah. Hi, good evening.
Hi, Mirko. Good evening.
Can you listen to me? So, I have a question for you. Do you know if there are possibilities for young students to keep experiences in various parks, for example, in the Maryland parks? Uh, because I am a student and I'm studying scenography in the Fine Arts Academy. And I had this kind of question because for me it's like a dream to achieve these kinds of possibilities, and I was just thinking to asking you this.
So like how possible it is to get experience in parks internationally, you mean?
Yeah, during the
Yeah,
summer or just
yeah.
experiences. Yeah.
So two of the best things I ever did was when I was studying, I worked at Six Flags Magic Mountain in just outside of LA. And then I also worked at Disney World on the international college program. And there are companies that do it. I think you have to be either still studying or just after graduation. Um, and then there are other ones where you can be like a cultural representative. So I know, like, for example, Epcot, if you're Italian, you can work in the Italy area for a whole year and you get to work in like food, retail, attractions. It's not usually so much as like from the design phase, but in terms of guest experience, like learning how people work, how they move around parks, how they interact with spaces. Like the best thing you can do is have some level of like experience of actually seeing how people exist in themed spaces. So um when when I did the exchange in Six Flags, it wasn't like a program through my university. I actually emailed different companies that I knew ran these programs, and I just said, I would love to do this, like really, really would love to do this. Um, can you guide me in the right direction? And there's a company called, well, in the UK, they're called Yummy Jobs, but I don't know who does it like in the rest of Europe, but I know that if you Google them, maybe there's a similar company that do it. But generally, if you have a look for like the Disney International Program is really good. I did the short one for like 2 months in summer, and it was wonderful. It was completely crazy. Total like immersion, very, very long days, and met loads of amazing people, and in the middle of the craziest time of year to be there. So I do what I did. Like I just searched around and literally searched for like international theme park summer placements or like student programs at theme parks. And there are quite a lot. And I know like the US is a little bit more tricky at the moment, but a lot of the companies still they basically will sponsor you for the summer. And there's a little bit of an investment to get the visa and things like that, but like you get paid, you get your accommodation as a part of the job, so it's always set up for you. And they need people. Like they really love having international students and people working in the parks. So yeah, I when I did it was now like nearly 15 years ago, but it's still very much a thing. So yeah, have a search, and I think the summer ones are really good. But if you have the time, then some of the longer ones that they do like at Epcot, they're amazing experiences, and you should do them while you can do them, because you'll also get to a point where they're unfortunately not as easy to get, and you'll be like, oh, I wish I did this.
Wow, thank you so much, Ed. For me, these tips are really, really special. Thank you.
A pleasure, a pleasure. Thank you.
And I have one question for you.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for showing us how it's important study, research, visit parks, museum, mall, and etc. And going to Tia and Yapa events could be useful for young people like our students to participate this in this event also to find a new job.
Yes. In short, yes. I think one thing is to decide maybe whether you want to kind of look at like a freelance type approach to finding work, or if you're looking for a full-time job somewhere. But you never know who are at these events. And for the IAPA that just happened in Barcelona, we did like a next gen and young professionals job fair on the last day at lunchtime, and it was amazing. So I think if you're like a registered student from certain universities, you got complimentary admission to the show, then you got a tour around the show, and then they did like a round table and you could meet the different companies. And it was amazing. And we got the chance to meet loads of really talented young people that, people that studied like 3D design or animation or concept design or graphics or even like storytelling. And I think it's really nice because if you are open to getting a bit of experience, freelancing is really nice as well, because you can kind of figure out like what you want to do. Of course, it can be a bit hard when you've not had the chance to work on so many things, but I think something that is really nice is like personal projects. Um, when you have the time to do them, just like be blue sky about it, Again, this is a chance to develop your own portfolio in while you wait between projects and while you're searching for other things. And you can create literally anything. So if you love illustration, test some different types of concept art. And if you love like architecture, just go and nerd out on some really cool technical plans of like dark ride buildings. Like it's all out there. That's the best thing. So I think figure out what just you really love to do, like what really excites you. And if you're trying to get more into the industry or in a specific role, yeah, just see what inspires you the most and then go to these events and talk to people. And the nice thing is like people like me, and there are lots of people in the TA, for example. If you go to these events, you get like a sticker that says like, I've done this before, I've not done this before. And if you find someone with the sticker, like it's our job to introduce you to other people, and people will do it for you. And people did it to me like 15 years ago, and they say, hey, you need to meet this person and tell them what you do. And it naturally happens. So you have to put yourself out there. It can be a little bit scary. I still occasionally get a bit nervous, but within minutes, you realize that most people are very nice and most people want to help.
Thank you, Ed. I think YAPA and TI events is one of the best moment for networking, to know new professional, new people, and new friends maybe. And
Yeah.
we talk about the Next Gen Showcase. I think is one of the best experience in my life.
Yeah.
Not for search work because I work with Massi and Massi kill me probably. I'm joking. I'm joking. But yes, I think it's one of the best experience in the life to participate in a Next Gen Showcase. We have
I
another,
agree.
yeah,
So I
and
was,
you
I was
are
just going to say to
one of the
that,
mentor of the last
yeah,
in the last 2 years. No, last year,
uh, it was
2 years ago.
the first year of the big program, and I totally agree. I was just going to say, like, if this existed 10 years ago, I would have thought it was an incredible chance to learn the process, because it's not really something that you get taught that easily, and every company does stuff in different ways. So what's really nice is when you do something like the showcase, you have different mentors from different places, and you have sessions and education things and like networking stuff. So yeah, I agree. It's amazing. It's a great program.
Yeah. We have another question, Ed, and it's in Italian if you want to try.
Dove?
I Fede,
Ah, sì, ok.
Fede, puoi parlare se
Cosa
vuoi,
c'è?
eh? Attiva il microfono.
Eccoci qua, mi sentite?
Sì, ti
Sì.
sentiamo.
Perfetto. Ciao Sergio, hi Ed, ciao a tutti.
Hey, ciao.
Scusatemi se parlo in italiano, ma un po' l'emozione, un po' la
Dove?
paura di magari sbagliare qualcosa. Comunque, a volte quando faccio dei concept, quando creo qualcosa, lo faccio con Planet Coaster perché non sapendo disegnare molto bene è un modo per ovviare a questo, quindi per mettere, diciamo, in pratica quello che penso. Solo che a volte quando creo ho come un blocco per la paura del giudizio altrui. Volevo chiedere ad Ed se anche lui gli è capitata una cosa analoga, se anche lui ha avuto qualche blocco e se sì, come ne è uscito, oppure qualche consiglio per uscire da questa fase, poter sbloccarmi e creare liberamente.
Do you understand, Ed?
Sì, sì.
Okay, very good.
But is it okay if I reply in English? Because I don't think I can answer
Può
it so well.
rispondere
So
in
maybe you can,
inglese, Fede?
sì. And maybe
Fede?
Sergio, you can translate if you
Yes,
need
you
to.
can try.
So, um, so I think there's two things with this. Number one, yes, I think it's very natural to worry a little bit about what people think, but I think unless you just put stuff out there, you won't kind of have the chance to overcome it. So I think there's, I can get a bit like anxious in certain situations, and then I remember, like, for example, I have to give creative presentations all the time, and it can be a little bit nervous because right up until the moment you're like, oh, are we doing what we need to deliver? What are they going to think? And then suddenly you see people's reactions when you start to deliver and share stuff. And again, when you share with like passion and enthusiasm, people, they don't judge you so much. I think they actually become quite inspired by how much you care about what you're doing. So um, I think number one is not, this is so easy to say, but kind of not caring so much about what other people think, because you should allow yourself to just creatively explore, and don't let the judgment of people stop you from creating. Does that make sense? I don't know, Sergio, if you want to translate a little bit before I carry on. Also.
Fede, è tutto chiaro? Vuoi che traduciamo?
Tutto chiarissimo,
Ok,
grazie.
perfetto.
Perfetto, perfetto. And then the second one is imposter syndrome. is a very real thing, especially when I look at, for example, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, trying to get into the industry and then seeing people that are like, executive level at Disney are all 60 years plus, and you think, oh wow, that's a long time. Like I have to do so much, climbing up the ladder to get to this point. But actually, it's really amazing. Like, I think when you look at the opportunities that we have available to make yourself an expert, right? So even just like playing and exploring in Planet Coaster, or just watching creative videos online, or trying to search for inspiration, you kind of have to remind yourself, like, to not, like, you're there for a reason. And with IAPA, I've been hosting panels now for the last 4 years, and the first year it was a bit like, am I the one already to be giving this information to people? And actually, you realize, like, yes, because you've learned and you should believe in yourself. And I think when you can confidently talk in something that you're passionate about, then you should 100% be the person who is talking about those things. So it's very natural to like worry about what people think, and to feel maybe occasionally like a bit of an imposter. But I think you have to just, the more and more you do stuff, the more you talk to people, the more you just say yes to everything, the more you're going to learn, and the more you're going to get confident in what you do. So I know that's like, sounds a bit life coaching, but it kind of is, because I've had to do that myself. And now when I do a presentation, when I talk like this, like, I love what I do. I love talking about it. I love sharing it on an industry platform, and I love sharing it to people that want to come into the industry, because I care about it and I want to share my knowledge, So it's a confidence that comes with time, but it's just being open to every possibility, basically. And sometimes maybe they're not going to be so great. Sometimes maybe things don't go so well. But the more you do it, the more you'll feel really good about what you do.
Well, thank you again. Fede, tutto ok? Chiaro tutto?
Tutto chiaro, grazie mille. Thank you so much.
No, prego, grazie Fede.
Any last question? Anch'io avrei una domanda per Ed, se possibile, ok. Ok, Sofia,
Sì, sì.
turn on your microphone. Dov'è Sofia? Ho persa. Sofia. Sofia. Ok.
Ok, perfetto, mi sentite?
Sì, ti
Sì.
sentiamo.
Ok, ciao a tutti, hi Ed.
Ciao.
Io volevo chiedere appunto ad Ed se, diciamo, avesse mai provato la paura di non riuscire a trovare un suo posto in questo, diciamo, fantastico mondo, specialmente all'inizio, ovviamente, e diciamo, se si fosse sentito come un pesce fuor d'acqua, spaventato da questo mondo grande, molto ambizioso, e diciamo di non saper come fare il primo passo, di non, diciamo appunto, fare emergere quella che è la sua creatività.
Non ho capito l'ultima parte. I'm sorry. L'ultima parte. I understood
Dicevo,
the first.
se, non so, magari avessi trovato, diciamo, se non avevi paura di non riuscire a trovare il tuo posto nel mondo, il tuo modo di esprimere la tua creatività, e diciamo, se la tua creatività non venisse capita, non venisse valorizzata, non venisse colta. Non so se mi sono spiegata.
I don't know, Sergio, can you help me a little bit?
So actually, Sophia was wondering if you ever had the fear to not finding your own place in this kind of industry.
Sì.
Also,
the fear that your creativity could not be valued and understood by the people who work in this industry. If maybe you hadn't the possibility to, let's say, express your own creativity. I don't know if maybe it's
Sì, sì,
clearer
sì,
now.
no, capisco. Sì, sì, grazie. Okay. Yes, I think so. As I've shown in the beginning, I've been very lucky to work in different types of roles and projects, and you learn what you're good at, you learn what you would like to improve, and after a while, you also learn what other people can do better than you. And I think it's also important to not think you don't need to do everything. If you are really passionate about one thing, or that you grow into a role as well. So like for me, like I'm not the world's best illustrator. I'm just not. I wish I was, but I'm not. But I know that I have like a very creative mind, that I can communicate well and guide other people to help bring those ideas to life and create like a bigger process. So I think in the beginning, I was maybe a bit more scared that like if I wasn't the best illustrator, then I couldn't enter the industry in the way I wanted to, because communicating your ideas is very important. But I can sketch, I can draw, I'm just not a fine artist. So I've told myself, okay, well, I don't make big pieces of concept art because that's not what I do, but I can help guide a team. I've learned how to lead people creatively. I've learned how to, interpret other people's ideas and implement them. And I think ultimately it's like, I think you just have to be open to some self-discovery and be easy on yourself. That like you either say, I love this so much, I'm gonna go to drawing classes and learn how to draw because I don't feel so confident. Or you say, actually, that's not for me, but I love 3D modeling, or I love storytelling, or I love lighting design. And you go and dive in and you become a specialist. Because also, even when you become a specialist in those things, as you get older and more experienced, like you also then become like a leader in those things too. So I think it's I have definitely had times in the past where I've questioned like, oh, should I do this, or am I not good enough for this? But I know I'm good at this, if that makes sense. Um, so yeah, I think it's being open to a bit of like self-discovery within the industry. And then you'll find that when you get the chance to have different types of experiences, like, just you have to reach out to people and say, hey, I can help you illustrate this design, or hey, I can help you with a bit of 3D or something. And over time, you'll just find that you gain the confidence in knowing where you want to be. Hopefully that made sense. I'm sorry I couldn't answer in Italian. I would love to.
Thank you, Ed. Sophie, tutto chiaro per te?
Sì, sì, tutto chiaro, grazie mille.
Grazie, Ed.
Fair enough.
We have the last question for this night, Andrea Bazzani. Andrea, ti attivo il microfono. Ok, prova Andrea a parlare.
Qui, ciao,
Eccoci, ti
ciao,
sentiamo.
buonasera. Hi Ed.
Ciao Andrea.
Ciao. Allora, anch'io te la faccio in italiano perché il mio inglese è molto elementare. Allora, io volevo chiederti se quando realizzi appunto le aree tematizzate nei parchi, non hai mai realizzato dei teatri oppure delle arene per gli show tematizzati. Ovvero, faccio un esempio, un'area tematizzata su Aladino, un palco fatto a forma di tappeto volante, una cosa così. Grazie.
Everything is good.
Sorry, Sergio. No, I'm sorry.
We have the best translator here. It's called
Sì,
Eric.
sì. Erica, can you
Um,
aiutami?
so Andrea, I think maybe Andrea correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Andrea wanted to know when you have created your themed area inside the parks, if you ever had, if you have ever created, let's say, a theater or maybe an arena for themed shows.
Show.
Such, for example, his example was, for example, an area related to Aladdin. Maybe we don't know, maybe a carpet stage. Yes, flying carpet stage, something like this.
If I've ever created this kind of thing.
Yes, maybe yes. Arenas for team shows, let's say, or theaters.
I haven't created like big arenas, but we've created like spaces for storytelling or like smaller stages, or also, for example, when we've done like hotel design, creating like storytelling theaters in hotels and making them really cozy. And they're amazing because like kids and parents, when they have the chance to do like a story hour or something, I don't know, it's something I love about the more intimate theater moments in theme parks. You know, like a meet and greet, but it's just really good because it's really theatrical, or there's like an effect before you meet the person you're going to meet. Like, I like putting the small pieces of theater in everything. And even though I actually studied theater and set design, I never got the chance to actually design a proper show because I went straight into theme parks. So I would love to design a big theater set one day. One day.
Tutto chiaro, Andrea?
Sì, ok. Yes, thank you.
Pleasure.
Okay. Ed, if there are another last question, I think we have finished. Thank you very much for all, Ed. It's really amazing presentation. We really
My
loved
pleasure.
it. It's
My
a
pleasure.
pleasure to talk with you again. I think it's really honor for us to have you here in our Parksmania New Generation webinar.
It's an
I
honor
hope
for me to get to do it.
I hope to see you in Italy next time. If you have time, remember we have the Congress the 7th November in Moviland Park. And but if you have only time and if you're in Italy, and
I can always get in the car. I live in France. It's not far.
By the way, really thank you. A really beautiful presentation, full of tips, ideas. It's really
It's my
blew my
pleasure.
mind.
Thank you so much. No, thank you all for listening. I'm really glad. I'm really glad. It's my pleasure. Anytime.
Thank you again. Okay. Last thing, guys, for all, I want to share you only one thing. You see my screen?
Hey.
Okay. Where is my screen? Okay. Last thing for all of you guys, thank you to our sponsor, Carisiland, Movieland, Caneva Award, Wonderwood, Zamperla, Magicland, Giorgio Tauber Group, Museum Project e Black Studios. Quindi grazie a tutti questi sponsor che ci stanno supportando, che senza di loro non sarebbe possibile fare questo evento e anche l'evento dal vivo. Quindi thank you very much at our sponsor. And thank you again, Ed, for your time and your profession.
Thank you so much. Thank you for asking, and grazie a tutti. Thank you. I appreciate it.
See you
Anytime.
next time.
Thank you, Ed.
Have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Ciao a tutti
Ciao.
ragazzi. Ciao, bye. Bye bye.
Ciao.